Space, final frontier. These are the voyages of Starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Well, I want recording then, so everyone can enjoy the credits again. So I forgot to press record.
Oh dear.
Space, final frontier. These are the voyages of Starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Retrek. I'm Captain Jim, and with me, of course, is Admiral Elliot.
Hi there.
And we're back talking about the second episode now of Lower Decks, Kayshon, His Eyes Open, which I predicted when we watched the trailer that Kayshon was going to be my new favourite character, and I quite enjoyed him.
I think they did a few too many Demok references with what he came out with.
Yeah,
that they could have come out with, that they could have thought of some of their own metaphors instead of.
Yeah, like
I know it's fan service, but I felt like it was too much fan service.
Yeah, like we talked about it, didn't we? And we joked about his Rapunky when he joined the Seven, a reference to the boy. Apparently, it's not. And we were speculating, like, you know, is he going to have all these pop culture references? But you're right, apart from that first one, that Rapunky one that we've no idea what it means, the rest of it, like you say, was pretty much all taken from Darmok. So
yeah,
maybe though, if he's going to stick around a while, we might get a few more of them. And
it's
explore.
hard to say, because I don't know if you've noticed in the titles. But how do you pronounce his name? Fred Tremesko, who played Sax in season 1.
Right.
Even though they've redone all the titles, his name is still in the titles.
Could he be? Maybe is he voicing someone else? Because
I looked up on IMDb and they haven't listed him as voicing somebody. But as when we looked at the trailer, there's a shot in the trailer that looks like he's there. So I wonder if he's going to come back.
Maybe he is, yeah. I don't know how maybe it'll be a transporter accident.
Well, we do know that Star Trek has got a thing of death isn't actually the final thing with Star Trek.
No, not always. Not always. You've got a few come back, but yeah. So I do enjoy him. He might not be my new favourite character just yet, but we'll see how he gets on. So this one then, and I have to say, I think I enjoyed this more than the first episode this season.
I think I enjoyed the first episode a bit more.
Right, okay. Yeah.
But that's maybe because I get really excited with something new starting.
Oh, I do as well, yeah.
And I think I can look at a lot of things, and even though second episodes might be a lot better than premieres or first episodes, I always enjoyed the first episodes because I've been anticipating it.
Yeah, I can see that. I think this one I just really like the start, the main.
I think it's got two good stories going here.
It has, definitely, and we get a lot more.
I think you could quite easily argue here, because we normally say the A and the B plot, but I think you could quite easily say here it's just two A plots.
Oh yeah, it's a pretty much even split between the two. And yeah, we finally get Boimler and we get a bit more of the Titan and everything. And we didn't get Marina Sirtis, Councillor Troy.
No.
We were expecting her, but yeah, we just got we met some of the lower decks on the Titan, but we didn't get to know the main crew really.
Well, they were his bridge crew.
What were these bridge crew that Boimler went
Yeah.
with? Right.
Yeah.
So I was thinking they were.
Yeah, no, it was typical Star Trek fashion of what we're seeing in the original. Well, pretty much everything, where the bridge crew go on all the missions.
Yeah,
and it was his bridge crew.
if anyone who's listening or watching the streams or on the Facebook group or anything, if any of you have read the Titan novels, can someone let us know if the characters that we're seeing in Lower Decks on the Titan match up with the ones in the novel? Just out of curiosity, so I've never read any of the Titan.
I've not read any of the Titan novels, but like looking at how good Mike McMahon is at picking up things, I'd be very surprised if it isn't the same.
So would I, and like the design of the Titan is absolutely what was on the front of the books and what's in Star Trek Online and everything. So a bit like they're doing with Star Wars now. I like how every so often they'll dip into the extended universe and make something canon that's always been there.
Yeah,
I don't want to upset any Star Wars fans. I know that it was all canon, and then Disney changed it, and then it wasn't.
Yeah, it became Legends, and but you've got
Star Wars.
Dave Filoni's probably the best thing to happen to Star Wars, apart from George Lucas writing it in the first place.
Yeah, he's excellent, and like I love stuff like how they brought Grand Admiral Thrawn into it. And I like that we're kind of doing that with some of the Star Trek stuff now. My big wish is I want to see Captain Calhoun from the New Frontier books. We've got a Brickar now, so we've established that that species exists. I feel like we're getting... In fact, you know what? Just make a New Frontier series. That'd be outstanding. But anyway, we digress. So, in the first storyline, then, the Mariner storyline, we meet Ensign Jets, who's been reassigned from Beta Shift, and straight away he's like the polar opposite of Boimler, and so he's rubbing up against Mariner in the wrong way because they're both,
She expects him to be. She expects him to be like Boimler.
Yes, they're both very much alphas, and they rub against each other, and you get.
Well, we get the sonic showers. We've seen little clips of the sonic shower. We saw in one of the Voyager episodes, the Doctor disturbs B'Elanna while she's having a shower. The Ilea probe comes out of the sonic shower in the motion picture. But it didn't shock me. It surprised me that they had communal showers.
Yeah.
It reminded me very much of Starship Troopers.
And Battlestar Galactica, they have. So, it's a lot more militaristic than we usually see.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's a commentary on the Lower Decks, because we've seen that they have bunks where they're basically in a corridor and there's bunks. And
where that goes back to, some of the things where it's been mentioned about Kirk on his first posting. Was a small ship, and he was literally shoved under a set of stairs, almost like a cubby hole. And it was a shared quarters was the cubby hole.
So I think it's a little bit of that, and it's also a little bit like you probably won't get this on the Enterprise D. Everyone would have had their own room with their own shower, but this isn't the flagship. So
it's interesting because I'd be interested to know what the actual dimensions of the Cerritos is and what its crew complement is, because there probably is enough room for everyone to have their own quarters.
Yeah, the saucer looks like it's the same size as a Galaxy class or of a Nebula class. It looks like that saucer and then a variation on the rest of it. So I don't know.
The D could hold probably 10 times as many people as what it actually did.
Well, because they had arboretums and schools. And we know that the Cerritos is pissing about with its dolphin corner or whatever.
Well, that's something that the Enterprise D had Cetaceous Ops.
Yeah.
But it's something that's sort of only seen on a couple of little Lacars occasionally.
That's the thing, but if I run the Enterprise D and I had my own sonic shower and my own quarters, I won't be so bothered about them having an ocean section. But if I'm on the Cerritos and I'm having to sleep in a corridor and I'm having to go in a communal shower, I'm not so happy about it, But I mean, it's a funny scene, and it's funny how they blur out the nudity.
Yeah, well, they make it that it's the sound waves that are blurring it, don't they?
And
which I think is quite clever.
It's equal opportunity blurring as well. So the men's nipples get blurred out as well as the women's nipples. So at least we're being equal. And obviously you've got this where they're one-upping each other and everything.
Yeah, I like it a bit more powerful. Well, so do I. Well, I like it at this power. Well, why don't we go full hog and the bleeding out the nose?
It's rattling and they have to. So the main plot then is that we've got a collector who's died, and obviously we've met a collector before in the Most Toys, and there's a good joke about that. It's like, was he the one who collected data? Oh, they all tried to collect data.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's interesting. Like, obviously we met one collector, but it makes sense that there'd be loads of different ones.
Well, we actually met two collectors, didn't we, in the Most Toys?
True.
Because his mate came over and there was all this, my collection's better than yours, and mine's better than yours, and
that's what we get here, really, isn't it? It's you've got this guy who one of them's died, but he's like, well, I want you to make sure it's safe first. I don't want to go in there in case he's booby trapped it and all that. And I love that the captain is, oh, of course, we're Starfleet, we'll do this for you, because at the minute and this seems to be a bit of a running thread so far, that she's trying to impress people. She's having her assessment to whether she gets a bigger ship or not.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether this is the end of it, because it's implied that she's had feedback that she micromanages too much. And is that the end of it? Has she not got it? Or is this going to come back in later episodes?
I've got a feeling that she's not got it, that her assessment has come back that she micromanages people. So she's trying to be better before her next assessment, which I assume they have probably annual assessments, a bit like most jobs do.
It just seems weird, though, that they mentioned this last week, and then we follow up on it this week.
No, it's something else.
So if we were gonna do a running thread of the possible upgrade to a new ship, it just seems weird that we've only done it across 2 episodes and not made a huge thing of it. So I'm wondering if this might be an ongoing thing and that we'll come back to it and it's not all done and dusted, but we'll keep an eye on it.
I don't know. I think the upgrades are all done to the ship.
But whether she gets sent somewhere else, whether she gets a better ship or not.
Well, the thing is, if she does get a better ship, you take out that dynamic between Mariner and her, which is...
Yeah, you do, but it'd be interesting to see how Mariner does with a different captain. So, I don't know. And especially depending on who it is, like if they brought Jellicoe on or something for a week, that'd be interesting. So in the collector's thing, and there's no way we're going to cover all the Easter eggs here because there's so many.
There's all sorts. There's all the different weapons.
Yeah.
There's the probe from the Inner Lights.
I didn't spot that. Yeah.
There's a Mars probe. One of our NASA Mars probe.
Yeah. There's the Salt Vampire. There's Khan's necklace.
Yeah, which was disintegrated.
Yeah, that's a good point. It must be a knockoff then. He's been
duped.
He probably bought it off of Ferengi or something. This is the real one. And yeah, there's the game from the episode The Game.
There's a Cossack board.
Yeah.
Which I assume will be the one from Voyager. Like, I got the impression that's a Delta Quadrant game.
Maybe. Yeah.
So,
I mean,
because I don't think there's been any other reference to it in other Star Trek. So,
no, I don't think so. So, yeah, this episode's got a lot of little Easter eggs.
Great. It has, it obviously has the other Easter egg, which is why we're doing the second episode.
Yeah, which is what we can only assume is the skeletal remains of Spock 2 from the Infinite Vulcan, which we are going to cover in the second half of this episode. And yeah, so we meet Kayshon then, and he's the first Temerian in Starfleet. I like that he's got his ceremonial sash like Worf had, but he's gone one better. He's even got a dagger in there.
Well, we did see that the dagger was ceremonial, though, didn't we?
Yeah.
So I have no problem with him having the dagger.
No, I don't. I think it's a nice touch that they're showing that different cultures have different things. And back on the Titan then, and this is another one that I wonder if this is going to be an ongoing thing. The Titans battling Pakleds, which obviously we had a battle with at the end of season 1.
Yeah, and we caught a little bit of them fighting again with the Titan at the end of last episode.
And Riker says, I think someone else is pulling the strings behind the Pakleds.
Yeah.
So again, I wonder if this is going to be an ongoing thread and that we might find out who or what is behind the Pakleds.
Yeah. It did seem like there's going to be more to it, didn't it?
Definitely, yeah. And I love how Riker's got his foot up on the captain's chair. It's obviously one of Riker's mannerisms, but that's really good. And there's some good banter as well when they're beaming down to the planet and there's Kayshon and Ensign Jet sort of says about the beast at Tanagra. And Mariner says, yeah, the suck up at Tanagra.
That's it again, isn't it? It's metaphors from the TNG episode.
Yeah, it's ones that we already know.
And yet, okay, maybe throw one in, maybe throw two in as a fan service, but not every single one of them.
Yeah,
and not doing anything new. It felt too much.
And yeah,
and it disappointed me.
Yeah, Darmok and Shalad can't be the only Temerian story. Otherwise, they really struggle when they're trying to cite metaphors. If it's not two people meeting up to overcome adversity, they're a bit stuck. You know, they need different stories. On the Titan as well, I like the security guy who sounds like Jason Statham, who's just like, right, yeah, we'll go down here. I think he's really cool. Back with the collector guy, he's on about stealing Rutherford. He's like, oh, that's a good implant. And
you're cybernetic. And he goes, yeah, there's only been a few of us in Starfleet. Oh.
You've obviously got to watch yourself around collectors if you've got anything you are interesting. And couple of other things I noticed. They've got Chateau Picard wine.
Yeah.
And they've also got the Betazoid gift box that was played by Armin Shimmerman in Haven.
Right.
So it's really good.
There's just all sorts. There's absolutely all sorts.
But something we've not seen before, but is introduced in this episode, is Kaylis's Fornication Helmet. That's just so...
Well, I thought this is so apt because, like, we've seen it where the Klingons are meant to be very rough when they're having sex and all that.
Yes.
And all that. So it makes sense to protect your head from injuries where things go on.
I can imagine Klingons having ceremonial sex headwear.
Let's put our armor on for sex.
Maybe it's for when they do it with non-Klingons, you know, it's for that, it's like, you know, ribbed for her protection sort of thing. And Kayshon gets turned into a puppet, which is a bit crazy. You know they're going to be selling them soon.
Yeah, now, I was looking through and I can't find any previous Star Trek reference of someone getting turned into a puppet.
No.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Certainly none that I can think of. I mean...
and I've gone through, like, looking at animated series and...
It's that bit. It's one step sillier than what you'd probably do in a live-action track.
Yeah. I was thinking, like... I was trying to think, has there been even anything similar?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, the closest would be people getting frozen in place or whatever,
or robot replacements, like what a little girl's made of.
The most similar thing that I can think of is that episode of Angel where Angel gets turned into a puppet.
Yeah.
which is a great episode of Angel. Obviously, he's not an inanimate puppet in that. He gets to move around and stuff, and he has a detachable nose and things. So that if you've not seen Smile Time, Angel Season 5 on Disney Plus, you can probably find that since they bought Fox. That's a great episode. But yeah, it's the first time in Star Trek I can think of. And I like how Jet and Mariner are sort of ragging the puppet back and forth between them.
Yeah, I'll look after it. I will.
Exactly. It's all a one-upmanship thing, isn't it? And eventually, though, I like when they realise that, oh, maybe neither of us should be in charge. We're both a bit too overbearing.
Yeah,
and then
what do you think, Tandy and Rutherford? And they come up with a solution straight away.
Yeah, exactly. So I like that they're getting...
I like how Mariner goes, why didn't you say something earlier? And Tandy goes, well, we were scared to, you seem to be.
Yeah, you two were sort of overpowering the conversation.
Yeah.
There's a good bit earlier, though, where he proposes the safer plan, and Mariner's annoyed that they're going with his plan.
Yeah.
But they're like, no, I quite like that. There's less danger if we go that way. There's some good jokes with Boimler as well, like where the Titan crew were talking about how boring the Enterprise must have been. Well, they used to have jazz quartets, and they used to do this, and... Whereas Boimler's like, yeah, that's what I want, you know. That's what.
But then he also points out, he goes, "What? They fought the Borg. They did this. They went to other dimensions."
Yeah, and I like that in Boimler's storyline, he wins over the other members of the crew. He's like, "You didn't really join Starfleet to be fighting. What did you actually join it for?" I like the one lad who chips in and says, I did it so I like beaming. I suppose he's like, you know, you might join the Navy if you really
if you like sailing.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm into flags, I'll join the Navy.
Yeah. And yeah, the Spock 2 skeleton, which we'll come on to, and they get attacked by sort of space Roombas, I suppose, is what they are.
Yeah. Well, it even says that they're keeping everything clean, but then they turn red.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's really good fun. There's lots of running about and excitement and everything. And you've got the collector guy. Obviously, it turns out it's him that nicked the Kalis.
The sort of Kalis's fornication helmet, which is set off the alarms.
And of course, all of this leads to the captain's realization that I do actually, she's gone too far the other way, not being hands-on at all. And she doesn't realize how out of hand it's got because she's like, oh no, I'm not going to be asking for updates every 5 minutes.
Every 5 minutes, no, let him get on with it.
Yeah, didn't work out so well, unfortunately. Then with Boimler, this is where we get the Riker duplicate clone Thomas Riker link, and he ends up beaming up, and it turns out he's accidentally recreated the accident that made.
The thing is that they're trapped inside like a security shield, aren't they? So they think they're going to die, and then he remembers what happened to Riker, how he got out of a security field, which was what cloned him.
Yeah. And it being Boimler's look, exactly the same thing happens again. It's good how they deal with it, though, that they don't realise wait, I'm the transporter duplicate, not him. And what I love about this is that we don't know which Boimler we're actually getting back, really. Like, we don't know whether it's original Boimler or it's copy Boimler or...
Well, it's you just see the two Boimlers again later, don't you? And
that's it. And it doesn't really matter, you know, to all intents and purposes, they're the same thing. But I like the bit where one of them steps forward and says, I'll do it. And it's, I thought you were going to do the same thing. And
what? No, I thought we were just looking and smiling at each other.
And then he decides he's going to be William Boimler instead of
Dad. And Riker said, that's a great name.
Yeah, I like how into it Riker is. And I like that you get the impression that William Boimler's going to become really well thought of on the Titan, and he's going to move.
Yeah.
And he's
well,
really
Riker looks like he thinks he's great that he's got a transporter clone. He's changed his name. He played his he puts on a Nightbird, which is what he's been struggling to learn to play himself. He cracks out the Romulan ale.
So no, he's well in now with Riker. I hope we check in with William Boimler.
There was some really nice touches in Riker's ready room, actually.
Yeah.
Like how you had Picard and he had the Stargazer and stuff. Riker had the Pegasus.
Ah, right, yeah, that makes sense.
And he had jazz record vinyls on the wall and things like that. So it was.
Yeah, I didn't even spot that. I think I was too busy trying to look at all the collector stuff and didn't even think to look at Riker's walls. But
yeah, he had a bit of all sorts, and so I thought it was nice though that we got to see Riker as his own older ship, and it isn't the Enterprise D or the A. He's actually gone with the Pegasus. Yeah,
a bit more history for Riker himself, aside from like what we know of him, kind of thing. Yeah. Back on the Cerritos then. I love that the Doctor just puts a sign like, don't touch the puppet.
Yeah, this is not a toy.
Yeah, she just takes it in a stride as well. Like, it's not the first time. It's not the first time I've fixed somebody being turned into a puppet.
Yeah, which is what got me thinking that there must be something. There's got to be something obscure back in a Star Trek reference. Yeah, there's something happening, and I can't think
what it is. Maybe it's from one of the books or comics or something.
Yeah. If anyone knows, please leave a comment in the group.
If there's a Star Trek puppet thing going on and we've missed it somehow, we do apologise. Yeah. And then, Boimler gets back. Mariner's making him pay for it a little bit, making him go get the drinks.
Well, I like how he comes back and... what happened? And he goes, transporter clone, and Rutherford goes, knew it, and Tandy has to pay up.
Yeah, they've had a bet on it. Well, it's the sort of thing that...
it seemed like a Boimler sort of thing to do.
Yeah.
Which makes you wonder how many transporter clones actually are in Starfleet.
Well, we had that ship, didn't we, in season 1, where it was all the weird accidents and stuff, so...
Yeah,
maybe it's not as much of an isolated thing. And then, you get Kayshon hitting on the woman at the bar and Shaka when the walls fell. So, you're right. It's another one. But really good fun. Yeah,
it'd been so easy for them to come up with something new as a metaphor.
Yeah. I mean, like I was saying, use popular culture. So,
it's like we know that Lower Decks loves doing fan service with all the Easter eggs, but like if you look at the Collector when we were across there, you just saw things and there was so much going on, but it's all little bits of fan service relating to this episode and that and that and that. But this is just blatantly.
Yeah, it is. As I say, if he's sticking around, maybe they'll move beyond that a little bit.
Yeah.
And open it up a bit. So the one that we pulled out then was Spock 2, and we decided we were going to use this as an excuse, a reason, a punishment, whatever you want to see, to go back and look at the animated series. And it's the first time we've covered it on Retrek.
Yeah, to say that we're 116 episodes in now, and this is the first time.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a reason for that. I mean, I don't think the animated series is bad. But I don't think it's incredibly memorable. It is.
No, there's a few episodes. Like, let's be fair, when it was first released, it was actually released just as Star Trek.
Yeah, of course.
It was never called Star Trek the Animated Series. It was Star Trek, and essentially this was season 4.
Yeah, this is it. This is the last you're gonna get, and until the movies of the series cast. And I do like how I don't think it's dumbed down very much, if at all, for a children's audience,
Well, it's also it's a thing of the times, isn't it? Like, you didn't back like what was this 73, 70, 74, 75 the animated series.
Yeah.
Like this is the first one I actually watched when it first came out.
Yeah. No, a bit before my time. But,
Yeah.
I do remember these being repeated on like Saturday morning kids TV.
Oh yeah.
Like that.
It was repeated right into God. I recorded it on video when I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
So it was recorded well into the 90s.
Yeah, and there was a big thing about like Gene Roddenberry seemed to fluctuate on whether he considered this to be canon or not. And at first it was, then it wasn't. And
well, now it's canon apart from one episode, isn't it?
Something like that. Yeah, it's gradually been sort of readopted as part of the canon. And I'm happy with that.
As far as I'm concerned, like I think now we look at animated shows differently, don't we? Like you look at all the Star Wars animated stuff.
Oh yeah.
And now that's canon, and now we've got Lower Decks, and that's considered canon. And
yeah,
I'm sure Prodigy will. So it gets awkward to say, oh, well, we'll have this animated series, but not that animated series.
Yeah, I think it's because there's a lot of things in it that are quite different. And I mean, part of it was because they were doing things that you couldn't do on a normal budget. Like this episode that we're going to look at, the Infinite Vulcan. You've got like these vast underground cities, and
oh yeah,
you wouldn't have been able to do that. And you've got the standing on a platform that speeds along this underground like highway, and you just couldn't do it on the budget. And then you've got other things which are very difficult to reconcile with the canon. Like they had the magic belts that somehow worked as an environmental suit, and
well. They're basically a personal force field, weren't that? So you could use them as a spacesuit, and you could swim underwater using them. And
and obviously we've never had anything else like that.
Yeah, but the interesting thing about that is, like, this was made by Filmation.
Oh yeah,
and if you look at a lot of 70s cartoons, Filmation did loads, and they all have the similar styles. But also, most of them where it had some form of hero had some form of power belt.
That's true. And one of the reasons was because it's cheaper. You could draw an orange line round your main character and go, that's his spacesuit, instead of
having to have a spacesuit.
Because Filmation, and they did do some great stuff, like they did He-Man and She-Ra.
Interesting one. Do you know which Filmation live-action show from the late 70s uses the music from the animated series?
Oh, no idea.
Jason of Star Command.
Right, okay.
It never got its own music score. They've just lifted the music score from Star Trek the animated series and put it in there.
That perfectly brings me on to my point, which is that Filmation, they made some great stuff, but they were notorious for being cheap with the animation. So things like with He-Man, for example, anybody who watched it in the 80s, He-Man and Prince Adam looked exactly the same. But if you watch any other version of He-Man, Prince Adam's a much scrawnier, looking character. And he gets much bigger and beefier and turns into He-Man, like with Shazam. And that was always the original intention, but Filmation were like, well, we're not drawing two different characters. So look exactly the same. And Orko in He-Man was meant to be called something like Gordo, but if they'd have drawn a G on his tunic, you wouldn't have been able to flip the frame to have him looking the opposite direction.
Yeah.
So they did it an O so that it looked okay whichever way you did it, so they could read the same. And, you know, this isn't particular to Filmation. There's numerous episodes of the live-action Star Trek original series where they reuse footage between sequences.
Well, that wasn't just Star Trek. That's done in lots of shows. Like, Knight Rider's a big one. in season 1, like you see the truck that Kit goes into pretty much every episode. The truck only appeared in 6 episodes, actually. Actually, where they filmed it. The rest of it is just they filmed it and they reused the footage over and over again.
I mean, Star Trek.
So that was going on from into the 80s.
Oh yeah, but Star Trek did a few where they'd get a close up of a character and they'd just reuse that close up throughout the episode. So there'd be one scene where they're stood in front of a bay of electronics and you've got all the flashy lights behind them. And you get the close up, and then later on they're stood in a field, and you get the same close up with the flashy lights.
Yeah.
And, you don't notice it until someone points it out to you. And once you know to look for it, it's all you can see. But anyway, so Filmation being cheap. Another thing is, and it happens a few times in this episode, where all of a sudden everybody's just a black silhouette running. Because they're not going to animate the running and things like these dragons that attack them. They just use the same.
Thing is, them silhouettes running actually appear in numerous different series. Yeah. It was reused with different backdrops.
But you mentioned the music. The music, it's a rearrangement of the original series theme. It's not quite the same. It's a bit weird. But on to the actual plot then. So they go into a planet on the periphery of the galaxy, and there's these weird pom-pom plants that are basically a tribble with legs that's actually a plant.
Yeah.
And Sulu
it's quite a nice concept that they've got in sentient plants that have
it is, and again
they've gone beyond like we've seen plants that fire weapons and like we have Venus flytraps, but they've gone beyond that where they've developed to be intelligent.
They're actually intelligent, and it's broadening Star Trek's horizons a little bit, and you can do it you could do it now and be CGI, but to do it where you can move away from the restrictions of live action to go, okay, let's look at what would this be like.
Let's be honest. Anytime in the original series to try to do anything that didn't look human with maybe odd ears or eyebrows or ridges, looks pretty bad. Like look at the Gorn, the rubber suit. Ooh.
Yeah, there you go. And the Halter, which Devil in Arena's a great episode, and Devil in the Dark's a great episode. But the realization of the creatures was not.
Well, it was what the budget allowed. But if you even looked at at movies at that time, it was very similar.
Yeah, it's true.
It was what the technology could do.
Yeah, unless you had mega budget. But yeah, you're right. And so we meet the plant people, and they turn up and they save Sulu. And we find out it's an interesting backstory. It's like, well, humans came here and they brought a disease and it wiped us all out. And we see like the remnants of that where they take them under the surface, and you've got like their ancestors that are these huge big plant creatures, but they've died out. And so there's a lot of like background going into this episode. So it's only 25 minutes, and and Walter Koenig wrote it as well.
He wrote a couple of the animated series.
Weirdly, he's the only cast member who isn't in it.
Yeah,
which is odd. He's famously there was originally they only wanted Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. And I think it was Leonard Nimoy who sort of went out on a limb and said, no, you need to get everyone else as well.
Yeah.
But presumably he said, except for Walter, you don't need to worry about him, which is weird.
Like Walter Koenig, he came in, in the second series?
Yeah.
So I wonder if at the time they didn't think of him in quite the same way as a regular.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, when you think, because he's in
now we think of Walter Koenig and Chekhov as like a main cast member, and that's how he's looked, and that's what he is. But maybe at the time he was sort of maybe thought, oh well, he was a late addition, and he was only brought in because he was young, and
maybe so. Yeah, it's a weird one. And then the dragon things, which are still plants, so somehow plants. And they attack so they can kidnap Spock. And then we meet the main villain, who turns out is a clone of a human.
Yeah, it's the 5th generation clone.
Why is he a giant? Is this ever explained, or did I just miss it?
I think the giants, so they can fight people better.
Okay.
It's very strange. It's sort of like, if you're bigger, you'll be better.
Yeah, but
I think that's basically all it's saying is bigger is better.
Right, it's so they can go bring order to the galaxy and everything.
Yeah, and you've got to be bigger to do that.
Right. Yeah, it's a weird one because they just talk about, oh yeah, he's an exact clone. Well, he's not, mate. There's some going on here. What's he called? Caniculus.
Yeah, Caniculus 5.
And again, great bit of background. Like, the original Caniculus was part of the eugenics wars. And he was working on the plant side of eugenics and everything.
Yeah.
So it's a good pull from the Star Trek lore that we've already got.
Yeah, it's linking into Space Seed, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing on it. And I like where they've got the briefing room. And part of this is because we've only got 25 minutes, so we need to move the plot along. But Kirk just goes, oh, well, obviously, he's not the original one, and he's cloned himself over and over again. All right, Kirk, where did you get that from? Like, that's a good guess, but...
Yeah.
You know, and there's just no comeback to it. No one goes, it could be a different thing.
To be fair, I assume it's probably quite a reasonable assumption because they know the eugenics war was all about genetic manipulation and all that. So cloning is basically duplicating genetics. So if you can alter genetics, surely you can copy them.
I'm not saying it's a bad guess. I'm just saying it's very quick how they get there. If this was a normal length episode, we'd play around with it a little bit more, and there'd be a reveal that is actually what it is. But because we've only got 25 minutes, we need to just...
Yeah, you've got 20 minutes less than a normal episode.
So what's your idea, Kirk? Oh, well, clearly he's a clone. Yep, that'll do. Off we go.
Yeah.
They find this invasion fleet. What looks like, it looks like they were planning an invasion at some point. And it's weird, isn't it, how you get... Caniculus says, oh, I want to go out and make the galaxy a better place and,
bring peace to the galaxy.
And all this. And the plant people go, oh, that was just our plan, actually. We were going to do that before you turned up. It's nice that these people came together who had exactly the same ideas. And then they go down to the planet and they're like, right, we'll see if we can talk the plant guys round. And they start doing that and they're like, right, we need to run now. So they're running down this corridor. Let's run towards the light. And it just happens that at the end of the light is this lab where they've got original Spock, which is handy. But he's dying. And then it's like, no.
He's dying because he's being cloned.
He's been cloned because they can clone the body, but they need to suck his mind out and put it in the other one effectively. So, fair enough. And then that's when we get Spock 2, who, as we know now, ends up in somebody's collection in 100 years' time.
This is quite sad that the skeleton's there and what's happened, because, we know that Vulcans are long-lived.
Yeah, because
and there's every chance that Spock 2 should still be alive at this point in time.
Spock 1's still
Spock 1. We know that during the time of Nemesis. This is a few years after Nemesis, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's before the destruction of the Romulan sun.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is Lower Decks before that?
I'm pretty sure it is, yeah, because that's only 15 years before Picard. And
no, it can't be because Riker moved to the Titan after Nemesis.
He moved to the Titan after Nemesis, but that's still before the Romulan. Because when the Romulan sun goes supernova, we only see that in Star Trek 2009. So
yeah,
Spock 1 is still
he's still alive, and even when he goes back in time,
he lives another.
He lives for quite a few years after that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. Why did I think we need to know
how did Spock 2 die?
Yeah. Because it's obviously been a while as well. So he's decomposed to the point that he's just a skeleton. So yeah, what happened to Spock 2? We need to know this. And Sulu's got a plan that we're going to use intergalactic weed spray effectively. And they outfit all the weapons with weed spray. I do like though how
because obviously energy phases you can just plug in a gas cartridge.
Well, yeah, and an energy phaser burner plant.
Well, you'd have thought so.
You'd have thought so.
But they've maybe got power belts.
maybe that's it exactly. So I do like how they resolve the problem though, because it is very Star Trek. It's Kirk talking to Spock 2 and arguing out the logic with him.
Yeah. Does it make sense to create a duplicate of someone to kill the original?
Yeah. What's the point of it?
What's the point of it? Yeah, and it's right.
And and it works. And so Spock 2 mind melds with Spock 1.
No, it doesn't. It does the Vulcan mind touch.
The mind touch, sorry. Yeah.
That's what they call it in this episode.
Yep, it was still called that at this time. So he does the Vulcan mind touch.
Well, it's funny because it was called a lot of different things for the original series.
Yeah, very true.
And for some reason, they were still not decided what it was actually called by this episode.
Yeah. So yeah, he does the Vulcan mind touch then. Maybe it's because you can't do the focus, the mind meld. You've got to have 2 fingers there and 1 finger on the chin. Yeah, whereas his hands are too big, so he can only go in with finger. So maybe that's why it's the mind touch. But so effectively, both of them are now Spock, and so it's almost like Spock's had the same thing as William Boimler as well.
Well, he is. He's a clone, but like I say, I think we need to know what happened to Spock 2.
Yeah, because Spock 2 is going to stay with Caniculus, isn't he? To try and help the plant people repopulate the planet. So
which is all very noble and good.
It is. Maybe they got a bit carried away, tried taking over the galaxy again, and they had to sort them out. Maybe the plant people talked Caniculus and Spock 2 round,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think it's one of those that Lower Decks, by putting that skeleton there, which is obviously a reference to Spock 2, they've now created this problem of, well, what happened to him? How did he become a skeleton?
Why isn't Spock 2 still alive? Yeah. And I wonder
why didn't he just reclone himself?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing, is that might not be Spock 2, that could be Spock 3. Or Spock 4, or
Actually, it could be Spock 2 if he's recloned himself, and that was just the empty body that died.
Yeah, so that's it. He could have done an upgrade and made a Spock 3, so Spock 3 could be out there.
Yeah,
when it started to get a bit older, maybe. Yeah, don't know.
Yeah, I think this is something that we actually need an answer to.
We do, definitely. We'll tweet Mike McMahon about it. Like, we need to know what happened to Spock 2. So, Star Trek often ended in the original series with a little joke where everybody, and kids' TV shows often ended with a little joke. And you get the confluence of that here. But it's got to be one of the lame. It's not even a joke. It makes no sense, and it's not funny. Where Sulu does some sort of fight move, and Kirk says, "You'll have to teach me that, Mr. Sulu." And then he says, "Oh, it's not as easy as teaching you. You've got to be unscrupulous." Like, what? What?
Yeah.
Why do you have to be?
But you're the most scrupulous person I know, Mr. Sulu.
Yeah. So first of all, why do you have to be unscrupulous to do a martial arts move? That doesn't make sense. And then secondly, why is Sulu the most scrutable person he's ever known? It just
none of it made it. Yeah, it just made no sense whatsoever.
It's not your best joke, Walter Koenig, right? In this one,
it's maybe a 70s reference, and like I was only 4 or 5 when this came out. I know I watched it originally, but and I've watched it a lot since, but it's maybe an obscure 70s reference that we just don't get because we're not old enough.
Maybe. I mean, I'm just Googling it now. So it doesn't say if it had any other. So having or showing no moral principles, not honest or fair. So, yeah, okay. So Sulu is scrupulous, I suppose, in that he's the opposite of all of that. But I don't see why that means you need. I'm just seeing if there's any like slang meaning of it, like you say, that's from the 70s that we've missed. But I don't.
It is. It's just really. It's a really strange one. It's
And then to top it all off, Sulu winks at the camera at the end, which is just weird. But you know what? Overall, I don't think it's a bad little story. I mean, it's silly.
It ain't a bad little story. It's very much a 1970s cartoon story.
Yes, it is, definitely. But I mean, it's still got the essence of Star Trek in it.
Yeah.
It does have some deep dives into continuity with the the eugenics wars and things like that, and it explores some interesting ideas.
Like, to be fair, if you look at what gets put out now, cartoon-wise, this is so much deeper.
Oh, yeah.
I know there's a lot of animated shows that are aimed at a more adult audience and an older audience, but this was aimed at young kids.
Yeah, there's nothing that seems to straddle that middle ground anymore. It's either you really kiddified like Paw Patrol, or your adult-oriented animation. Whereas you used to get stuff like this, and I'm not saying everything, but things like Ulysses 31 and Mysterious Cities of Gold.
Yeah.
They had some quite complex storytelling, and it asked quite a lot of kids to keep a track of it. But, I mean, my opinion, I think that's better because kids enjoy stuff when they're not being talked down to. They would rather have something that they have to follow, think about.
Like I was telling you before we came on, I've been watching a show this last week that I watched when I was a kid, Starfleet, and it's nothing to do with Star Trek, even though it's called Starfleet. Puppet show from the 1980.
Yeah,
but it explored very adult themes, and you had people getting killed and how they explored how they missed them and people betraying them and.
Well, yeah, like Mysterious Cities of Gold, like I rewatched it recently. So I remembered loving it as a kid, and then they finally brought it out on DVD a few years ago. And one of the episodes, they get trapped on the Galapagos Islands, and the whole episode is them like using planks off the boat that's washed ashore to tip the turtles upside down so they can eat them. And that's 25 minutes of kids' cartoon in the 80s, you know. Crazy stuff. Anyway, I think that about does us for the Infinite Vulcan then. So we'll be back next week to talk about episode 3 of Lower Decks.
And also, I don't know what it's called yet.
I don't either. And whatever rabbit hole that leads us down.
You don't know what we might put on with it.
Absolutely. It could be absolutely anything. Going by this episode, I mean, last week, I'd have said the chances of us talking about Spock 2 and the mystery of his untimely demise would have been very low, but that's what Lower Decks is giving us, is these deep cuts. So.
Well, we know Lower Decks is full of Easter eggs, so like I think that the obvious ones would have either done the Mark or the Most Toys, or I can't remember the name of the right. Sorry, Second Chances.
Right.
Yeah, and they were the obvious choices, but it was nice to look back at an animated series episode for a change.
And we know we've got a BEM episode coming up. Whenever we get to that episode, we glimpsed in the teaser, so that might even be next week.
Yeah, and like we might decide that it's not worth looking at the BEM episode from TAS because it might literally just be literally what we saw in the teaser and nothing else. But we might decide we want to talk about BEM.
Yeah, we'll see. So if you want to get in touch in the meantime, we're on Twitter at RetrekPod. You can email us retrekpod@gmail.com or come and join us on the Facebook group. Thanks for trekking with us this time, and we'll see you next time on the Retrek.
Thank you. Bye-bye.